Last week was really exciting for the animation industry as two major feature films rolled out at the same time. One became an immediate success, while the other didn't do that well. K-pop Demon Hunters and ELIO are a really interesting case study. They both came from big studios, they came at the same time, and I'm not talking just about the date, a literal date of coming out. I'm talking about the stigma of the whole industry, where the audiences are literally begging for new content, and networks don't seem to really want to do that. It just feels like sequels and reboots are so much better bet. And now, some people say ELIO proves that original content is not necessarily worth investing in. But then they forget that K-pop Demon Hunters, even though they didn't get theatrical release, they are changing the game right now. I work in the animation industry and I have my own IP in the development. So I did a lot of pitches and I am really deep in this whole world of trying to sell a show. So for me, the anatomy of the story, the anatomy of the logline, and kind of like seeing the overall potential of a project is very natural to determine. That's why when I heard of K-pop Demon Hunters for the first time, I knew that's just gonna be a success. Meanwhile, when I heard about ELIO for the first time, I knew it might just not pop off that much. Maybe it's because I'm not the target audience. ELIO is clearly for families, while K-pop Demon Hunters are for Gen Z, which is my age group. However, there are so many things we can unpack why exactly ELIO didn't do that well, while K-pop Demon Hunters are thriving. Number 1, the logline. I have to say, the logline for me is the king. The logline, a good logline is literally everything. I'm a strong believer that if you cannot sell me the show in 2 sentences, then you have to think of a new show. There are some people that would like to debate me on that, but I do not care. You can fight me on this hill. Logline is everything. So let's check. What is the logline of K-pop Demon Hunters? As it reads from IMDb, a K-pop girl group balance their lives in the spotlight with their secret identities as demon hunters. Let me read that again. A K-pop girl group balance their lives in the spotlight with their secret identities as demon hunters. You see that? That's like literally 1 sentence, and I'm personally 100% sold. So let's break down this logline like a surgeon. First thing we have, it's relatable to a massive fandom. If you ever ended up fighting a Blackpink stan or a BTS stan on TikTok or Facebook, you know you cannot f with them. Those people are wild and very passionate. They will do anything. They will die on the hill for those bands. And Blackpink and BTS are not the only bands that are like massively successful. As someone who's been listening to K-pop since like 2010, I literally grew up on that.
Wow, fantastic, baby.
Seeing how things are these days, this whole wave of Korean culture being pretty much in the mainstream, for me, as someone who's been in it since such a long time, is crazy. But fortunately, people who were working on this film did notice that. They did notice the potential, and that's good, because this potential can be easily monetized. Number 2. This story promotes diversity, which is a Korean culture in this case. Because if you saw the film, it's not just about the K-pop. It's also about the K-dramas, Korean barbecues, and the social cues. It's everything that anyone who's even slightly interested in the Korean culture will like. And then on top of it, we have this really fun manga-esque expression that they do put on the characters, which I haven't seen before either. And then we have number 3, plot twist. It all ties down to the psychology of our brains. There is such a thing that's called the science of storytelling. We do have the familiar subject, which is K-pop, the Korean culture. And then we have this twist of hunting demons, because we know those 2 topics very well. None of it is new. However, when you combine those 2, it is very new, very original, very demure. That's something that you would want to watch with your mom, with your dad, with your sister, and alone. and maybe with your date that you're never gonna see again. But at least the film you will see again for sure. Now let's move to ELIO, and let's read the logline as IMDb states. ELIO, a space fanatic with an active imagination, finds himself on a cosmic misadventure where he must form new bonds with alien life forms, navigate a crisis of intergalactic proportions, and somehow discover who he is truly meant to be. That's cute, but is it marketable kind of cute? No, it's not. I absolutely hate to criticize animated films. I know how much blood, sweat, and tears are poured into that, and ELIO is a beautiful film. It looks amazing. However, there are a lot of things I personally do not understand that happened behind the decision making, and I'm gonna break it down because there's a reason why this film has the lowest box office in the opening, like ever, even surpassing the first Pixar film, Toy Story, which is from the 90s. That's like insane. And while we are still here, please make sure you subscribe my channel, leave the like and leave the comment. And if you're feeling really freaky today, maybe join our Discord, because we do organize cool panels with artists who actually did work on films that we are talking about today, like K-pop Demon Hunters, and we're gonna have way more. Alright, so reading that logline, there are a couple of things that do not work for me personally. I do not like that there's a space subject. It's not like I have anything against science fiction. Actually, I do have an IP that's literally happening on the moon, but there's really nothing that interesting. Like, I know he wants to be kidnapped by aliens. Okay, cool. And then he ends up there, and for some reason he needs to sort out political issues as a 7-year-old boy. I mean, maybe if you're also a fellow 7-year-old boy, it's like very inspiring, whatever. But for me, it's just really not given.
Go girl, give us nothing.
Also, I don't feel like putting out this film at the same time as Lilo and Stitch came out was the smartest idea either. Both films have a very similar theme, which is a human bonding with an alien. Literally, Lilo treats Stitch like a dog, but he's an alien. I feel like in a way, they did release two films with a very similar concept, which is really questionable decision. Don't we already have WALL-E, Lightyear? Literally, Lightyear also came out quite recently, just like 2-3 years ago. I feel like Pixar can definitely do much better when it comes to topics, and it's just nothing new. I feel like people are just bored. I'm trying to be very objective about this film, because even though I'm not the target audience, there were instances in the past where there will be a family-friendly film and I will be very excited about it. I feel like Coco is a great example. This is 100% a family-friendly film, but I love this movie. I watched it like 10,000 times and I always cry, and I never cry. Never. I'm emotionless void with no feelings, so congratulations Pixar for that one. And I do personally have a controversial opinion to make. I feel like studios are targeting wrong audience when it comes to creating original content, and the best proof is this whole situation, ELIO versus K-pop Demon Hunters. And it feels like we didn't get a very Gen Z defining film since a while you know, those family-friendly movies, if they are like original and everything, they do come out quite frequently. In the end of the day, we are not getting that much of original content either way, which sucks. Summarizing, I feel like K-pop Demon Hunters is really fitting into the perfect time, because there's a content fatigue where we feel like there's not much things coming out that are like specifically for us, which is Gen Z. And I think that's insane. Like, guys, like exec, whoever is there out there, please hear me out. Gen Z are the most chronically online people ever. If you want a film to go viral, to be like really successful, aim at Gen Z, because when we like something, it's gonna be everywhere, on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. Honestly, if you're gonna make a good film for Gen Z, per that marketing budget, like, they're gonna take care of this. They're gonna take care of this themselves. Trust me on that. Since we are on the topic of Gen Z, That's also a pretty demanding group of people. I feel like we all are really tired of the same things over and over again, and that's why Spider-Verse worked so well. Even though it's a franchise, even though it's a known character, what was special about Spider-Verse was the animation. You can see Spider-Verse and K-pop Demon Hunters being from the same studio very easily. From this a little bit choppy animation to really interesting texturing style, and also to this like tendency to use some comic style. Like it was comic for Spider-Verse, it's more like a manga-esque vibe for K-pop Demon Hunters. This is working really well. It does draw some sort of a consistency between the films that are coming from the same studio. Now, when it comes to Pixar, it's a very much respected studio, obviously. When we say something is a Pixar level of animation, we literally mean it cannot get better from there. It's like a badge of honor. However, is it really a golden standard for animated film right now in 2025? I feel like the reason why, for instance, Turning Red really worked well is because the style was a little bit different than usually. And I would really love for studios like Disney and Pixar that they did play around a little bit more. Because animation as a medium has so much potential. You can do so much more that goes beyond that very well-known Pixar style. I feel like comparing those two films is a little bit tricky, just because they are definitely for different target audiences. However, they are both original IPs, and that's something we are not getting very often these days. So when we get two future films where both are original, it's just like literally asking to compare those two, especially when one did amazingly well and the other did amazingly badly. Do I think ELIO deserves to be considered as a bad film? No, I don't think so. I think it's a really beautiful film, and I feel like it can be great for a family trip. Maybe there are some kids that will feel very much seen. However, when I think about myself when I was a kid, I feel like the films that were coming out during that time, they were so fun that even today they are considered classics. And yeah, they are being recycled as freaking reboots and sequels all the time. It's non-stop. The core and the heart of that story is even more than everything. So if you wonder why one film succeeded and the other one flopped, it's all in the logline.